following is a local resident producers program. The program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of CATV2, Oshkosh Community Media Services, the City of Oshkosh, or Time Warner Cable.
Hi everyone, welcome to Oshkosh. Cheryl, Hentz, along with Dan Rylance, and we're very, very pleased on this edition to welcome someone who's never been on the show before, but we hope it will not be her last appearance, first and last. We're joined tonight by Pam Ubrig, the City Clerk for the City of Oshkosh. So thanks very much. Happy to have you here.
Thank
Welcome,
you for the
Pam.
invite.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We asked Pam to come on to talk about the upcoming election. You know, the election is just a few weeks away, and you've got a lot of work to do ahead of you still, and probably one of the busiest elections you've had in a very long time.
It has.
So what are you working on right now?
The last week or so, we have been extremely busy at the counter. In 2004, we had a total of 1,884 absentee ballots that we mailed out, and we have surpassed that number already.
Okay.
Where are you at right now? And this is as of October 16th. That we're
It
taping
is,
this,
yes. We are at 1,931,
Wow.
What's your prediction? 3?
at least.
Okay.
Yes.
And why, Pam? Is that because people, either their schedules don't allow them to get to the polls, or are they just wanting to avoid the crowd?
I think various groups are promoting it. They don't want to stand in line, and you don't have to have a reason to absentee vote or early vote anymore. You can just come in to the clerk's office and cast your ballot ahead of time.
Used to be you had to have like a medical reason, or
You were going to be out of
be in a
town.
service or out of town or something like that.
Correct.
So any reason at all. So as long as we're on the subject, so what if someone wants to register to vote by absentee ballot, what do they have to do?
As of yesterday, you now have to do it in my office
To register to vote?
to register to vote,
Okay.
or they can go to the polls on November 4th.
Okay. But to cast their ballot, to vote absentee, how late can they do that? What do they have
They
to
can
do?
do it up until 5 o'clock on November 3rd in my office.
Okay. And if they want to request a ballot by mail and not come down to your office, they can do what? Go online?
They can go on our website, they can go on the state website, download the form, and mail it in to us, drop it off at the clerk's office, and then we'll start to process it.
Okay.
But they have to make sure they're registered before they get an absentee ballot.
So the key is you have to be a registered voter, and if you're not registered as of this taping, you have to register at the polls.
Or
office.
in my
Okay.
office.
Okay. And they can register at the polls, but that's going to be a big drawn-out thing, isn't it? If someone wants to do that. I mean,
It will take time. There are going to be lines all over, so it will take some time to get registered.
and when someone registers to vote, what do they need to bring you?
They would need to bring some type of proof of residency, something with their name and address on. Also, it's important that we have their Wisconsin driver's license, because now we do HAVA checks, and it has to be exactly as the name is on their license.
So a driver's license, what if they don't drive? What if they have no license?
If they have no license, then we'd accept the last 4 digits of their Social Security number.
So they'd have to show their Social Security number, or just
No,
give it to
they
you?
just have to give the
Okay.
numbers.
All right. So really, they need 2 things then: the last 4 of their social, or a Wisconsin driver's license, a photo type ID.
And proof of residence, particularly if they have only the Social Security number, because we have no knowledge of where they live.
Correct. And proof of residency could be some type of bill, a statement, your checkbook, something of that source. Nothing handwritten, no magazines or junk mail or such.
Well, what do you do in a case where it's like a first-time voter because they've just turned 18? They're still living at home. They have no bills in their name. all they have probably is a driver's license. You know, in some cases they may not even have a checking account yet. What else could they provide you?
They could bring a witness, and that individual could vouch that that's their residence.
Okay.
And they could sign for that.
Sometimes parents come with those 18-year-olds on first vote.
Okay. All right. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I've actually had it at my office where a husband and wife are maybe paying taxes. They stop down. The wife doesn't have her identification, you know, to prove the residency, so then the husband will vouch for her.
Okay.
Explain a provisional ballot, because that kind of follows what we've been talking about so far.
A provisional ballot happens at the polls, and it's usually for first-time voters that do not have proof of residency or their driver's license with them. They have the opportunity to cast the ballot. It's put in a special envelope, sealed, and they can either bring their proof of residency or their driver's license back to the poll, or they have until 4 o'clock the next day to provide that to my office, and then that ballot would be counted at that time.
They don't show up, the ballot is not counted.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you know, the Oshkosh Northwestern usually does, I think, a pretty good job of showing a sample ballot. Like, I think they usually run it the day before
It's
the
a state
election.
law, they have to.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, you know, some people don't subscribe to the paper, and I don't think you can see it online at the Northwestern's website. So I know you were bringing a sample ballot along, and if we can
Yeah.
kind of zoom in here a little bit and take a look, we'll just hold them up for her, I think. We can zoom in on one of these cameras here and
Do you want me to hold it up? She said
look.
she can't do it.
Oh, well, we can
You know, it's out on the city's website.
we're going to figure something out here.
The ballots are the same, except for the Assembly District, 53 and 54.
Okay.
And also on our website, we have a grid here that would give the voters the information, whether they're in 53 or 54, and they can click on their ward, and then the ballot is right there. So they can become familiar with that.
Okay.
Otherwise, we have them in our office. We're more than happy to make copies.
Okay. Well, she's getting a stand set up here. I thought maybe we could just zoom in on the ballot, but
How many
we'll,
poll places do we have in Oshkosh?
17.
17. Okay. Hours of the vote on November 4th are what?
The polls are open from 7 until 8.
Okay.
and that's 7 in the morning till 8 at night.
Right.
And you know, these poll workers, you guys, Dan, you're a poll worker, and you're going to be working on election day, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And election night.
And it makes for a really long day.
It does.
Do they get breaks or anything?
They start at 6 in the morning. They have to be there. They have to have the signage, the booths, the ballots, everything ready to go. So at 7 o'clock, when that first voter's there, it's ready to go. Throughout the day, you know, I put more staff on this time, so
Right.
hopefully they'll not necessarily get a full hour, but they'll maybe get 20 minutes where they can get up, go get something to eat, get a little break, and they go until the polls are closed, and if they don't get a break to process the absentee ballots, then that's when they process those, so it could be a late evening.
Okay.
There'll be few breaks on November 4th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just it won't be.
All right, let's take a look now at this ballot, and we can just look at it on the monitor here. I don't know if we can zoom in any closer on that, or that might be as, oh yeah, we're closing in a little bit tighter. So that's right there, we're looking at the presidential and vice presidential section of the ballot. Now,
And they have the choice of either voting straight party, or they can vote individually for the candidate. There is voting on both sides, and the referendum is located on the back side of the ballot.
okay, let's go back to that one more time. I want to kind of keep it on there. So the if they're voting a straight party ticket, because I think this confuses a lot of people at times. If they're voting a straight party ticket, then the only thing that they would check is Democrat, Republican, and I can't read the other two.
Green.
Wisconsin Green
Okay,
and
Green.
Libertarian.
And Libertarian.
Yeah.
Okay, so they would just circle one of those, the party of their choice, and that would be all they would touch on that ballot. Is that correct?
But if they want to vote for the referendum, that's on the back side.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
So they should remember to turn the ballot over as well. Now, if they don't, see, because I think I've seen people actually, they've had to go back and get a different ballot because they've screwed it up.
Wow.
You know, they've checked either Democrat, Republican, or Green, or whatever, and then they've gone ahead and started circling by candidates' names too. And that's where people always get confused.
Well, the primary creates more problems for the ballot than the
Yeah.
general
Yes.
election.
Yeah.
That's.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, what's the referendum issue?
It's with the health care.
Okay, can you explain it? No?
I don't have it in front of me,
Okay,
sorry.
all right, okay.
Is
But
it the
there-
healthy-
So there is one referendum issue,
Yes.
yeah, and it's statewide.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no, it's city.
Oh, it's city.
They went, the group went to like Appleton, La Crosse, Eau
Okay.
Claire, Oshkosh. So those municipalities have it on. So it's not
Okay.
statewide.
No, it's not, okay.
Okay. What's the, I mean, do you know the main issue here? I mean, what are we voting on?
Basically, should everybody have the health care that the legislative has
okay.
by December
Okay.
2009?
It's that Healthy Wisconsin
Yes.
thing.
This is an
Okay.
advisory thing?
I believe it is
Can't be
advisory.
mandated if.
It's, I believe it's
It's
advisory.
advisory.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So then, other than that, we have, let's take Oshkosh. We have a assembly race, and we have 18th District Senate race.
Correct?
Do we have anything else as far as,
Give me my ballots back.
Are we done looking at the ballots then?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
yeah, I'm sorry.
So Pam wants to look at them again,
Yeah.
so if we can just kind of give them back to her then, so she can take a look and tell us what else we have on here.
That's it.
okay.
Well, District 6, congressional.
Oh, I'm sorry, the congressional race, sure.
Congressional, the
Yeah, yeah.
Senate, and the Assembly.
Okay.
And is the 53rd, because the 53rd covers a small section of Oshkosh, is that on this ballot?
Yes,
that
it
you
is.
brought?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so the 54th is on there
Yeah.
and the 53rd.
Right.
Correct.
And 18th Senate District would be
Yeah.
for both
The entire-
53rd
Yeah.
and
Yes.
54th, yeah.
Okay, all right. So, we covered getting registered to vote, and again, now at this juncture, they either have to do it in your office, in person, they cannot just download the stuff off the internet anymore and mail it into you. In your office, or go to the poll on election day, but if they're gonna do that, be prepared to probably wait a long time, depending on when they go.
And
Correct.
depending on which area they're in the city they are at.
Yeah, yeah. You're expecting a pretty heavy turnout, though.
We are. I'm expecting about 90%.
Hey, I read that in the Northwestern. I almost fell off my chair. You
In two-
really?
In 2000, we had an
Oh,
89.9%
you did? Oh,
turnout.
so I
yeah.
didn't realize
So-
it was that high before, yeah. All right, trivia question. 90% of the registered voters in Oshkosh, obviously. How many registered voters are there in Oshkosh?
43,000.
So you're saying,
And we have a stack of probably about 2,000
was-
that we have to get entered into the computer yet.
Wow.
so that number is maybe
Gonna-
45, 46, 47. But you're saying 90%? Would that be the highest ever for Oshkosh for a presidential election?
Well, 2004 was 89.9, so
Okay, well, what the 90 is would be the highest then, right? Yeah.
Well, you know, I would almost think, I mean, I was kind of surprised too when I saw 90%, but now that you're saying that it was, you
I
know,
had no idea it was
89
that,
point something
yeah.
percent, you know, then I would almost think that this would be higher than 90% just because it is such an historical, really, this is probably one of the most historical elections that I can recall in recent history.
It's an angry
there's
election.
a lot of interest. A lot of interest.
Yeah, so maybe, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe we'll even go as high as like 95%. I know you.
We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
You're going to be working so hard.
Yeah. So you've got a lot of new registrations, obviously.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, okay. Oh, man. This is a question I can answer myself, but I want to ask you. What sort of common problems do you experience as city clerk during the day of the election? You know, I know you're busy, you've got your cell phone, you run to different places, but what's a common problem that you get hit with at 9 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the afternoon that you have to deal with?
Common problem?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes a card will be put wrong
Okay.
in the TSX,
Okay.
but that's a voter putting it
Okay.
in wrong.
How about if you run out of ballots with 90%? Are you got enough ballots?
I'm prepared.
You're prepared for that, okay. But that would be I mean, if you
Well, I
run out
hope
of,
I don't run out at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, yeah. That should be suicidal.
No, I wouldn't. I'd call my printer.
You
Say, do
call
you have
your-
any overruns?
The touchscreen machines, I know that, you know, some people as they're using these, they have concerns or questions. And with this heavy of a turnout, I suspect there may be more people using those touchscreen machines. Probably not a huge influx of folks, but there probably will be more. First time you use them, it's a little confusing, I think, at least it can be. And so if someone is using this machine, Pam, and they have a question, or even if they have a question about the paper ballot, you know, if they're already in the booth, I'll call it a booth, it's really not, it's
No, it's
a
not a
little
booth.
stand, but if they're already there and they've already started filling it out and suddenly they have a question, can they go and ask someone?
Certainly.
Okay.
Certainly. I try to have a ballot on the table with a lot of little information, numbers on it, to catch the voter's eye so that they see that ahead of time. And I instruct my poll workers that they should explain the ballot, but if anybody would ever have a question, you know, feel free to ask one of the election inspectors. Also, if you put a ballot through the machine and it kicks it back, there's a little digital screen there. It will tell you what's wrong with the ballot. And my poll workers are instructed, you don't go up and grab the ballot, you would just ask the voter, what does that say? And then we'd say, oh, it was a mistake, let's get you a new ballot. And a voter can have up to 3 ballots.
The markings on the pen on this ballot sometimes will obviate a ballot being, and it'll come back. Sometimes that's one common problem. I put it in my markings, I'm half off for this little thing, or you know, and that the machine doesn't read it unless it's pretty heavy.
Or maybe the oval isn't completely circled in or something?
Yeah.
Or, you know, all these little marks around the ballot, that's programming. Each one of the machines are tested before they go out to the polls, and I'll notice sometimes maybe it's just off kilter a little bit, and if you just try the ballot a different way, it will go in.
Okay, all right. So what, you know, I know that there have been recounts in the past for different local elections. In a national presidential election like this, who can ask for a recount? I mean, I realize they wouldn't be asking you for that, but you know, if there's if the race should be close enough, who could ask for a recount?
Are we thinking presidential?
Yes. Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen, but.
That's a very
And
good
who
question.
do they ask?
I guess they would go to the state.
Yeah.
Is what I would
can
guess.
try
I'd have to
answer that a little
look
bit?
into
Go
it.
ahead.
Yeah.
The statute set a percentage where we assume the losing candidate would ask it. If it's within a 0.5% or whatever it is by state law, and it's different in every state, he would go, I assume the Secretary of State or the election board, and he would ask for a recount. If it's within that, he doesn't pay. The state assumes the cost of the recount.
Okay.
If it's over whatever the statutory is, then that person would, and in that case, would be the political party.
Okay.
But it's got to be really pretty close.
Okay.
It's got to be within less than 1% or maybe 0.5%. And every state is different. But it would not be a local.
No,
They
I
wouldn't go to
wouldn't.
Pam Ubrig for a recount.
Well,
on,
yeah.
I would just handle the council
Yeah.
or the mayor,
Yeah.
and then like Sue would handle judges and such.
Right.
Yeah. And then the school district handles, of course.
Theirs.
the
And we
school
don't have
board
any
issues, and we
hanging
don't-
chads or anything like they had in Florida in 2000. So that will not be a problem, right, Pam?
No, it will not be.
You know, we were talking about poll workers earlier, and when you and I talked earlier today, Pam, I said that these poll workers, you guys all work very long days. And you can always use more poll workers, can't you?
I certainly can. That was one of my goals this election, to be able to put enough poll workers on so that we can handle the magnitude of the voters and give these individuals a break throughout the day. They're not going to be able to go home, but they'll be able to take a short break to get away from it. But we're always looking for poll workers.
Sure.
You know, and they can stop down to my office, fill out the paperwork. State requires that I have so many Republicans, so many Democrats, so they would have to declare their party. And if I needed that party in a particular district, which I still do need people, then we'll fill it.
Okay.
And then I do have, I had training last week and I had training yesterday on the TSX machines, because we have to do that so far in advance because we're going to start testing the machines and then they're locked down for the election. But then, like the 27th and 28th, I have those 2 days dedicated to really get to the nuts and bolts of Election Day and explain to the new poll workers, plus the seasoned poll workers, and just review everything for that day.
So how many, you said you've got 2 days set aside, how much training do they really get? How many hours are they getting?
They'll have like 2 hours of training this time.
Okay, all right. And, you know, one point I think should be made, just because you're set up to be a poll worker does not mean you have to work every single election, true?
That is correct. I have some individuals that are on my list, they just want to work the presidential elections. They love being busy. They don't like the slower ones. So put your name in and indicate to me which ones you'd like to work, if you want to work them all.
Optimum, how many poll workers are you hoping you'll have on the city on the floor?
It depends on the district.
Okay.
The south and the north end, those are smaller ones, so I
Right.
don't have as many.
Sure.
The university, I have
Oh,
anywhere
lots.
from 17 to 20 because they are just going to be busier than busy.
Clearly the new registrations at LB Hall are going to be significant,
Correct.
huh?
And the other ones, anywhere between 11 and 15 poll workers.
Okay.
Years ago you used to be able to pre-initial ballots. That's a big no-no. Now with
Right.
the state, you can't do that, so that takes extra people to do. Signing the voters in, handing out their ballots, registration. There's just many responsibilities there. So I wanted to have it staffed well enough that they get a variety.
What is the pay for a poll worker?
For a poll worker, it's $100, but if you figure the hours, that's not very much.
No, but we have been promoting it, so we should ask
Okay.
how much it is. I mean, no.
And then my chairmen do get paid more.
Right, okay.
But I would never put a new person on as a chairperson.
Right.
They'd have to serve a couple elections.
Okay, all right. So, it's at least a good community service type thing, I
It
think, to
certainly
do.
is.
It's a
It's
good way to
it's
help
rewarding.
give back.
It is.
And I would think it'd be kind of interesting too. Maybe a little trying at times, not that we're trying to discourage people, but, the reality is you're going to have some people who get frustrated, especially with an election like this coming up, where the lines in some places could be
The
relatively long.
voters get frustrated sometimes
Yeah.
by the delay, and it's just a lot of people there.
It is, but there's a lot of accountability and security matters that have to be addressed during the day, and that takes time. And my poll workers are just doing as I have instructed them to, keep the credibility of the election intact.
Well, and let's talk about that a little bit, Pam, because, one of the things that we heard, and it wasn't one of your elections, it wasn't one of your recounts, but in the most recent school board recount with Amy Weinsheim and Dan Becker, there was so much nonsense going back and forth, and particularly, I think, from one side, much more so than the other side. And then there was a lot of finger pointing about mistakes that were made by poll workers and this, that, and the other. And the reality of it is that these people are human beings. They're working very long hours, and not that anyone's making any excuses, but mistakes are going to be made by human beings.
By humans.
And it's not something that you can point a finger and say they're trying to rig the election or they're purposely doing this. And at the end of the day, it probably is not changing. I would say it's absolutely not changing the outcome, the overall outcome of that vote.
No, it did not.
Okay. And while we're on that subject, I know this has nothing to do with you, but it is about voter registration and so forth. We're hearing a lot about the Acorn organization now. And
Well, we heard about it at the debate last night.
yeah, and we heard about it a little bit before that too. And here again, obviously they were doing something that they shouldn't be doing, registering non-existent people. But at the end of the day, that's not going to change the outcome of the election, because Mickey Mouse does not exist, and Mickey Mouse is not going to the poll to cast a ballot on election day. I doubt seriously there's a person out there named Mickey Mouse. If there is,
We find him on ballots, though, don't we,
Well,
Pam?
yes, as a write-in, but but they're not a registered
No,
voter.
no,
so,
not- I have no-
and let's make the point too that Acorn has registered a lot of legitimate voters over the years. So anyway, let's talk about what happens after the polls close.
Yeah.
Because you're
Well,
just
no.
as busy then for, in some cases, several hours after those polls close. And
Jeez.
this might be one of them, besides maybe wanting to crawl into a hole or going to the nearest local bar, what do you do when the polls close?
Election night.
Yes.
The poll workers are busy tallying up the votes, looking for write-ins, printing the reports, sealing up the bags with the ballots in it, making sure everything is signed. And then that's brought back to the office by the chairperson, and then they have a station that they stop at each table to drop off the information that's required. You know, we collect stuff for the city and the county, the ballots are secured, so, and that all takes time. So election night, if we have a 90% turnout and the paper ballots, if there's a write-in for county clerk, 5 write-ins, they have to go through each one of those ballots and look for those write-ins. And that's what takes so long at the end of the evening. I'm not expecting those results to come in fast at all. Because if you have a line at 8 o'clock and they haven't had time to process all the absentee ballots, and we have that many already, that's when they're first going to be able to get to that, and those all have to be fed through the machine before they can even start closing down. So it's going to be a long night.
Well, and you know, in some recent elections, we have seen where some places have run out of ballots, and I know that hasn't happened here, and you're not anticipating it, but you know, that can slow things down too, if you have to run around getting extra ballots, and then what if you can't, you know? Well, what happens in a case like that?
Then you have to hand count it.
Okay. And that's going to slow things
That
down
would
a lot
really
too.
slow it.
Yeah, because I know one of the things that has been frustrating for some people is, you know, sitting at home watching the returns on Channel 10 and also checking the county's website. Some places come in very quickly, and other places, other districts, they come in, it seems like just tortoise-like slow, you know, and waiting, and I can't imagine what some of these candidates are feeling, sitting there waiting for the numbers to change.
And more times than not, they're looking for those write-ins. They're flipping ballots,
Yes.
looking for those write-ins.
Yeah, so, you know, people who write down these silly names, I mean, if you really want to write someone in
takes time.
legitimately, that's one thing, but for people to write in silly names, you know, that just causes more problems than it's worth. It's not worth anything, really.
No.
So, go ahead, Dan.
Absentee ballots, there's more every election.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see a change coming in 5 years or 10 years that city clerks and others are going to say, you know, we got to do something about this? Are we ever looking at a district where we might try mailing out ballots? I mean, are we looking at election reform as we go into another decade that you have experience? Are there things that maybe need to be changed?
I think postage would really hurt a municipality.
Okay.
I mean, if you take the postage, because we put postage on the outside envelope when we mail them,
Right.
and then there's postage on the return envelope. So, you know, if we mailed every individual, that could be quite expensive. Maybe the federal government would, you know, waive the postage.
I think the state of Oregon has total ballots by mail now. I'm just saying that, you know, say you have 10,000 absentee ballots in 2012 or 2016, that puts such a burden on the day process of the election that maybe there could be some way where the law would allow you to count those absentee ballots prior. I mean, other states are
Pardon me.
rather than just on the election day.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
I did go to an informational meeting where you could have like a central count for the
Okay.
absentee ballots. That's where I would open the ballots,
Okay.
count them, secure them, take them out to the polls, but then it would be my numbers, and then the poll numbers would have to get together, and I chose not to do
yeah,
that. I
that's
wanted,
tricky.
Yeah, I just think the accountability is too
Sure.
important.
I'm just saying, you know, that in the future that people, it's so much more convenient to vote by absentee ballot. Well, what if 50% of the people in 10 years do
Well,
absentee ballots?
Or with technology, what about the computer?
Right.
You know, that's something.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, I've voted absentee in the past, and I will again. I just gave you my absentee thing tonight, so.
And that'll get mailed out tomorrow.
Right.
And then you'll vote, and you want to make sure that you sign the envelope and you get it witnessed, and those have to be back in our office by November 4th to be
now
counted.
Who has to witness that, Pam? For folks out there who may be doing this, does it have to be a notary public who witnesses it, or can anyone witness it?
No.
Okay.
Your neighbor, a friend, a relative, a spouse, Anybody that's a U.S. citizen, 18 years of age, could witness it.
Okay, and it needs to be back in your office by when again?
November 4th.
Okay, so the day of the
You know,
election.
and we don't guarantee the mail, so I would
Right.
encourage you, don't wait till the last minute. If it gets that close, come bring
Drop
it to
it
City
off.
Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and if they, you know, because of people's work schedules or what have you, if they can't get it to City Hall when City Hall is open, I know you've got a drop slot outside for people to pay water bills and parking tickets and so forth. Is it acceptable in an election where you're dealing with an absentee ballot to drop it in there?
Yes, it is.
It is, okay.
They will get that to us.
Okay, so as long as they put it in the night before, you'd have it the next day?
Correct.
Okay.
How long do you keep the ballots?
I do not maintain the ballots. They are locked in bins
Yeah.
with security seals, and then they're taken over to the courthouse, and Sue Ertmer stores the ballots. But for like a federal election, they are kept for 22 months.
Wow, and she stores them all over there?
Okay.
Wow.
Explain
I'd like
br-
to see that room.
Explain briefly what the Board of Canvass for the county does after the election.
They go through all the election materials, make sure the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted.
Okay.
And then all the clerks get a report card back letting us know where things were not proper. You know, it could be as simple as the wrong color ballot was handed out. So one number will be higher in one ward versus the other ward. So you could be off by one count because the wrong ballot was given out.
So legally, they certify the election then, is that correct? Or?
Well, they'll do this one, but like when it's a council or a mayor race,
You would
I
do
have
that.
my own
Okay.
canvas and they do that. And like with the referendum, we'll be doing that.
Doing that, okay.
What do the different colored ballots mean?
You have 17 districts, and then you have either, you know, most districts have 2 wards, and it distinguishes the wards.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I,
You know,
I
the-
kind of thought
White,
that. but,
white and salmon usually, or white and
Yeah,
orange. Is
there
it?
are some districts that have 3, and there's one that has 4.
Okay.
And then in 2010, we'll redistrict so that we even out the numbers again. Because some districts, for example, Carl Traeger, that one just has grown,
Uh-huh.
and that one will be very, very busy
Okay, all
this
right.
time.
So what, I know what I'm asking to kind of gaze into a crystal ball here, but what you said it could be that it will be a very long night, and some of these things will be, some of these results will be long in coming. What's the latest that you anticipate you might be still counting ballots that night?
Realistically, I don't plan on getting out of here before midnight.
Okay, well,
I think that's, yeah. You know, there could be one area where things just, right, Pam, that they have problems and
They have issues.
and they're not bringing the ballots in, you know?
and that's I think that's happened pretty much in every
Yeah,
election
yeah.
where something has really been very, very slow.
Right.
But
and
you know,
we
we've
don't know what the problems
improved
are.
our procedures over the years.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I remember one election, it was getting late, and you know, the facility, they were able to use the phone during the day, and I was calling out there and the office was locked, so they could not get into the office. Well, now all the chairmen, they have a cell phone that day, so they can call me and I can contact them. So if there's a problem, I can call them and say, do you need assistance in this area, or what's the hang up, or
Okay.
so
What
the
if a-
communication has improved.
All right. Real quickly, what if a machine breaks down? You have extra machines that you can take out there, or?
On the optical scan, and that's the paper machine, that's our priority for voting. If that would malfunction, normally it's just a battery that goes out. I have extra batteries that I would come out and put a new battery in. But during that time, they would open the auxiliary slot, and so the voting process never stops.
Okay.
But we also have the TSX machine that they could also vote on that.
And that's the touch screen.
That's the touchscreen, correct. Little things with the TSX, maybe the battery on the encoder went out on me and I'd have to go replace that. Nothing major with the TSX other than the voter put the card in wrong or upside down or,
Okay.
you know, that way.
All right. Very good. Well, I think we have a good amount of information here to hopefully help voters out. So,
Good.
thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good luck, Pam.
We'll
Thank
have
you.
you back
Yeah.
again,
All
but
right.
not the day after elections.
Thank you, dear.
All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be joined by some folks from the Department of Public Works. We'll be right back.
Minutes.
escaped.
I escaped 5 foot.
Run across a border.
I couldn't practice my religion.
I was put to work in forced labor camps.
If I stay in Cambodia, I would have been dead by now.
If you think differently, then you're an enemy.
If you know how to read and write, you're dead. You speak your mind, you're dead.
The only way to express what I wanted to do was to get out.
I got to the country when I was about 14 years old.
I was 20.
I was 24.
I came here with nothing. No money, no English.
America stood for freedom, it stands for freedom, and that's what all my generation, young generation, wanted to be there.
For the first time, I felt like I have a right to be on this earth.
Here, you can do whatever you want to do.
I love my life here. I feel at home.
I'm free to do what I want.
Freedom to me means my life.
How you doing?
Hi.
Hi.
Have a nice day.
You too.
Thanks.
If only child abuse were this easy to recognize. If you even suspect abuse, call 1-800-4-A-CHILD. All calls are anonymous and confidential. Trust your instincts.
Poor nutrition today will increase Sarah's chances of anemia, add to her healthcare costs, sick days, even stunt her ability to learn. And the thing is, Sarah's not even born yet. Get proper nutrition before it's too late. Call or visit WIC. WIC provides nutrition information, healthcare referrals, even food. Your child has you, and you have WIC.
All right, we're back for the second half of Eye on Oshkosh, and we're joined right now by Public Works Director Dave Potek on the very end over there, and James Robbie, who is also with the Department of Public Works, correct?
Yes.
All right. And one of the things that we wanted to talk about was, you know, after the storms, we heard all this talk about illegally hooked up sump pumps, and we're still hearing some conversation about that. And yet nobody has really talked about the right way to hook them up and the wrong way to hook them up. And so we thought that it would be helpful for folks if we had you guys come on and really help kind of educate people about the right and the wrong ways to do this. First of all, is it a requirement that every home in the city have a sump pump?
I think the plumbing codes have changed where new homes or major reconstruction projects to homes do require sump pumps to be installed. The building codes did not used to be that way, but I do believe that they have changed and it is now a requirement.
Okay, for new construction, but for existing homes, if they don't have one, they're just sort of grandfathered in?
Unless our building inspectors can, speak more to it, but I think unless there's a certain amount of reconstruction work taking place, they are, but once you cross over a certain threshold, then I think you are required to.
Okay.
But I don't know what those numbers are.
Okay. Well, we heard after the storms that the reason that we had at least some of the extra problems that we had, we had enough problems with just the influx of rain, but it was complicated then, I think, by the fact that there were these illegally hooked up sump pumps. What kind of problems, and we've got a diagram that we'll get to, but what kinds of problems are caused by an illegally hooked up sump pump? Who wants to address that?
Well, the diagram shows the systems that are in a public street. So it shows the system that we have in the city, which is called a separated system. You have a separate storm sewer system to handle the drainage from the rainfall that goes onto your roof or onto streets and goes into the storm sewers, or you have your sanitary sewer system, and that's the wastewater from your home, from your washing machine, from your toilet, from your shower, and that water goes into the sanitary sewer, goes to the wastewater treatment plant, versus the storm sewers go to Lake Winnebago, the Fox River, Lake Butamore. I think they're really, as far as an understanding of the type of problems, it wasn't just that there were sump pumps connected. you know, there was a study done in the 80s to look for illegal connections. There's, you know, I think James was talking about older construction. Well, there was a time period where you might have what's called a foundation drain on your home, which in the old days was connected to the sanitary sewer. Well, that's just clear water. It's groundwater that shouldn't be connected to the sanitary sewer. And now we would require that to be disconnected. So there's things like roof drains that could have accidentally or illegally been connected to a sanitary sewer. There's sump pumps. There's foundation drains. You could have something like a clean out in your yard where, for whatever reason, the covers broke and there's clear water, rainwater going into a clean out that, you know, that's not supposed to happen. And then when you multiply that with the fact that, you know, there were so many areas that were flooded, it just created problems where there was rainwater that wasn't able to be handled by the storm sewer system, and because it didn't have anywhere to go, it sought relief, and if there wasn't availability of a sanitary sewer, it could go into a sanitary sewer. Okay. So if you had a, you know, you heard about the businesses or homes that had water in their backyards and their foundations collapsed. Well, if that was just rainwater in their backyard and their basement wall collapsed and all this rainwater got into their basement, there was no way of preventing it from getting into the sanitary sewer system. It went into the floor drain and was trying to go to the wastewater treatment plant.
Before we readjust our cameras here, I want to take an actual look at the photo and tell us what we're looking at here, and you know, explain the best way and the legal way to hook this up. Yeah. Okay, so why don't
to the left, okay. David? You
we can just watch on the monitor.
Yeah, we can watch on the monitor, and there it is. Can you see it, David?
Yes.
Okay.
And the two different systems would be the, and I'm going to give credit to the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District. This is their diagram, but okay. the green pipe would be, it's indicated as a sanitary sewer, and it shows a lateral going to the home. Okay. The red is a storm sewer system. There's a connection to the storm sewer structure in the street. There also could be a connection to your roof leader, okay. Your downspout. You know, that's the correct way that things should be connected. What I was trying to indicate previously was that, you know, there could be roof drains connected to the green, which shouldn't be. There could be yard drains that are accidentally connected to the green pipe, the sanitary sewer. There could be a broken clean out. You know, there could be the sump pump. You know, there could be the foundation drain. Any of those things that has rainwater, groundwater, clear water that should be going to Lake Winnebago or the Fox River, you know, could accidentally, or in some cases we know that people do this on purpose. I mean, if you have a yard where you don't want water to stand, if your sump pump is pumping onto your yard and maybe your grass is getting too wet, and you think that, well, an easy way to solve that problem, I'll pump it down the sanitary sewer and my grass won't get wet. Right. You're just causing a problem to someone else, to a different neighbor, either down the block or down the street. Somewhere else, someone's getting a problem from what you're doing.
Okay, so it needs to be hooked up to the storm water sewer if you're going to drain it somewhere, not the sanitary sewer.
That's correct.
But you can drain it into your yard. Like you can have a hose from your sump pump going out into your yard.
Right.
Yes. Okay, all right. Okay.
And these two pipes run underneath a street in Oshkosh?
Typically, right.
Typically, okay.
Right.
All right.
Well, you know, one thing that you and I had been talking about was the hoses that we saw after the June storms. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I do a lot of walking. Legal. I'm over in the east side by Menominee Park, and I'd say every third driveway had a hose, little black hose running, you know, maybe halfway down the driveway, and the water was running down into the gutter of the street. Now, you're saying if that runs into the one pipe, it's okay, but if it runs into the other pipe, it's not okay? Is that?
Well, typically, I'm assuming that you see those pipes during, say, a spring season when, when you just have your normal snow melt and the high groundwater conditions.
Right.
People are, those are sump pump discharges where someone doesn't have a connection, a lateral right to the storm sewer.
Okay.
They are just letting it drain on there. In your case, you gave an example of on the driveway.
Right.
It drains down the driveway into the curb and gutter,
right.
which connects to the storm sewer.
Okay.
Which, you know,
That's
that's
okay.
not a problem.
Okay,
Right.
all right.
The only type of problem is if that's happening in January and there's ice,
Right.
well, then you run into a different situation. So,
Okay.
I mean, with new construction, we require that a lateral be installed for a connection to the sanitary sewer and to the storm sewer. So if you have a sump pump, you're able to connect directly to the storm sewer and you don't have that overland flow
What if
problem.
I'm living in a part of Oshkosh that does not have the storm sewer under the street yet?
Most of the city does have
It
storm
does,
sewers
okay.
installed.
Okay.
Only some of the rural streets where there's still roadside ditches might not have a storm sewer, but other than that, any of the urbanized streets do have storm sewers. There are a few blocks here and there that don't have storm sewers, but people can still request storm laterals to be installed.
So that would not be an issue?
No, and what really, we had kind of a change of policy over the last 10 years where when we rebuild streets, we have extended storm sewers and we have extended laterals. So even though you may have a home that's 75 years old and right now you don't have a sump pump, we will give you a lateral so that if you sell to someone and they decide to put a sump pump in, they have the ability to connect to the storm sewer. So that's what we've
Explain
done.
the lateral. How big is it and how does it work?
The storm sewer laterals are a 6-inch lateral that's directly connected to the sewer pipe, the storm sewer pipe. And when we do a street reconstruction project, we install them to the right-of-way line or the back of the sidewalk. So at any time in the future, somebody could connect, onto that pipe and plumb their or their sump pump or their roof drains or anything like that, and directly connect them to the storm sewer.
What's the cost? Is there a cost?
A storm lateral cost right now is $300.
Okay.
Your lateral from your home is typically the same size for a sanitary sewer. It might be a 4, it might be a 6-inch, and so that's why this lateral to the storm sewer is a 6-inch diameter also.
And the 300 would pay for it plus the installation?
Well, the $300 charge that the resident receives does not pay for the entire cost. The city pays for the vast majority of the cost of the lateral to be installed to the right-of-way line.
Okay. So that's only in the road itself, in up to the sidewalk, edge of the sidewalk. Then
you have to.
Then you have additional cost to hire a plumber to, or you could work on trenching it yourself to wherever you want a connection.
Okay. Is there a lot of demand for these? People are calling in for these, or not so much? Or?
We've had an annual program for several years now where people can call and request a lateral to be put in, even if the street's not being reconstructed. We have seen a dramatic increase in requests this year, so we are proposing to increase the budget available for that for the coming years to hopefully help us get more of them installed for people.
After the spring floods, you got more demands for them?
Yeah, we got a lot of calls this June, July, and August, and we didn't have enough money budgeted for all of the calls that we received this year, so we put them in a backlog, and we're going to be increasing the budget for next year for that purpose.
Now, just so we could explain, the cost to the homeowner is $300. The cost for the city is probably closer to $1,500. We see the storm lateral as a proactive way to get people to put the water into the storm sewer. So that was a policy that was established long before I got here to try to make it attractive, make it a situation where people would request the storm lateral if they didn't have one, and so that they wouldn't have that sort of illegal connection to the sanitary sewer.
So at $1,500 a pop, how much more are you going to be asking for in your budget for laterals in this year or next year than you did this year?
We're right now proposing to double our budget.
But understand that I think we only had budgeted somewhere around 20,000, and now we're going about 40,000.
Yeah.
Explain to me, either one of you, how someone, if these sewers, these pipes are underground, how do you illegally, and maybe it's a dumb question, but I was always taught that there is no such thing as a dumb question. How do you illegally hook up something to something that's underground?
In a lot of cases, it could be a couple of different things. One, the plumber doing the installation might not realize which lateral pipe he's connecting things to.
Okay.
He might think he's connecting to a storm sewer lateral when in fact he's connecting to the sanitary. So he gets things connected to the wrong pipe. Or two, he might not know there's a sanitary sewer lateral and he just connects everything to one.
So how would you catch that? I mean, we had talked with City Manager Mark Roloff a few weeks back, and he was saying that as part of the education process, you know, he wants to kind of streamline so that all the departments, so that if one of the departments goes out to a home, they've got kind of a checklist that they go through, and this would be one of them. How, if it's something that's installed underground, how would you or anyone else from the city see it necessarily?
It can be caught in a couple of ways. One, assuming the plumber calls for a proper inspection from the building inspectors and they are able to get out and look at those connections, that is one time that they can catch it. Okay. A second way to catch it is something that we've been working with various other departments within the city to do a program where you go out and test the sump pumps, where you would pour a color of dye in the sump pump and turn the sump pump on. And then, you know, somebody would be out in the street looking at the manholes, you know, both the sanitary and the storm, and then they say, okay, yeah, that color dye is coming down the sanitary sewer, so that house is illegally connected. Okay. So it's a pretty intensive investigative program that would be required to catch ones like that. Okay.
There's also something else that right after the storms we started hearing about, and I think it's called a check valve. It's some kind of a valve that is a relatively inexpensive thing that you can buy at any of the local hardware or home improvement stores, I believe. And it basically, if I understand the way it works, it kind of shuts things off if there starts to be a backup of water. Now, I've heard that these things are illegal according to our city code.
No, I don't believe that's correct.
Okay.
They're not illegal. They are recommended. They are not currently required by the plumbing codes, but they are recommended.
Okay.
And how it works is it's a one-way valve. So if there's a surge in the pipe system, the sanitary pipe system, and it tries to flow back, there's like a little door that closes, so it can't flow back into the house. Okay. The flip side to that is if you flush your toilet while that valve is closed and it can't force out, it could back up what you just flushed. But it's not going to surcharge the whole sanitary sewer into your basement. Okay.
So in heavy rain events, you shouldn't be using, I mean, it's common sense, don't be doing loads and loads of laundry or lots of showers and that sort of thing. You need to conserve and make sure that the flow of the sewers are operating correctly.
Okay, all right. Well, let's talk about the budget for just a minute because that's something that you guys are dealing with even as we speak. And you know, I just learned yesterday or today that the city of Neenah, and this will be of interest to one of our crew members, is looking to raise their sewer and storm management fees anywhere between 100 and 125%. And they've not had an increase in their sanitary sewer rates since 1992. So at least we're not in that boat where we're looking at an increase like that. But are we looking at any kind of water rate increases or stormwater management fee increases in the next budget, do you think?
The Common Council approved increases for both the water utility and the wastewater utility last year, but they also directed that there be review kind of on a one-year process versus what happened. The city of Oshkosh kind of had the same problem that Neenah had, where those hadn't been reviewed for 4 or 5 or maybe it was 6 years, and the increases we had were, I believe, 15%. Well, it was 15% over 5 years, which was only 3% a year, but still people objected to the large amount versus a smaller cost of living increase every year. So I believe the intent with the finance department is to look at both the water and the wastewater rates to see how the costs have changed over this last year, As far as the stormwater utility, we have a stormwater utility committee, and they are looking at the rates for the stormwater utility. At this time, that's still being analyzed, so we don't know what's going to happen with those rates, but it's likely that those rates will go up, and that is to deal with the different, both the flooding and the pollution control projects that we have coming down the schedule. And you know, you need the funds to address those sort of projects, and that's what's going to drive that rate.
Sure. Well, speaking of flooding, Dave, I see just real recently that the parking lot over by Stein's and the movie theater and stuff, a good chunk of that is being redone, and I know that that thing historically floods anytime you get a lot of heavy rain. So that will hopefully help with some things. What about the folks who have recurrent problems, like over in the 7th Avenue, 8th Avenue areas? Is anything being done to, you know, try to alleviate some of their problems over there?
We are looking at a number of those streets for our annual capital improvements program. Probably not for 2009, but we're looking at it in 2010 and 2011 to reconstruct most, if not all, of those streets, and really take a serious look at the storm sewers, and we'll probably see some significant pipe upgrades when we do those reconstruction projects.
Okay.
Well, I can just add here, there's been a lot of press about the different stormwater drainage areas that have problems. So Campbell Creek was an area, and what the area you were asking about near Ohio, that's related to the reconstruction of Ohio. Mm-hmm. So those are smaller drainage basins that could have some projects done. But we also have the big areas where we have drainage problems on Campbell Creek. We have big problems on Sawyer Creek. Mm-hmm. I mean, we fixed some areas on the north side of the city. We have some more areas to fix on the north side of the city. So we have two different types of projects going on, the very small areas like an 8th Avenue, or the big areas. For instance, like we're working with the National Guard Armory to build a detention basin by their property. You know, some of those are big area projects versus a small location, but we have a lot of work to do.
Absolutely. Well, and it all takes money, and it all can't be done overnight. Where will the next detention pond be going in? Will it be over by the Armory, or?
The Common Council authorized us back in August to start proceeding with either the Tippler Dry Detention Basin for Campbell Creek or the National Guard Armory. They were both authorized. We are starting to proceed with both of them. We've recently entered into an interagency agreement with the National Guard to start the proceedings on purchasing that tract of land, and we're also going through the process with the school district to acquire some land from them over by Tippler. So we are working on those two right now. Okay,
excellent. Well, I hope that we've gotten some information out there to hopefully help people tonight, and I thank you both for being here. You know, if anyone does have any questions, they can just give you guys a call. Sure. What's your number at Department of Public Works?
It's 236-5065.
Okay, very good. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yep. All right, take good care. And we will see you next time. Until then, you take good care. Keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh.